Esports.
Yeah, and when we watch this match, we'll get a better idea of where these two teams stand. Like, for instance, if we see OneSnap Esports just, walk all over Bigetron, then it's like, maybe OneSnap is the dominant team. And, Bigetron's 2-1 last week was kind of indicative of them being in the middle of the pack, that sort of thing. So it'll be real eye-opening once we see these games started. But we did have the bans come in earlier, and Bigetron, they banned Gragas and Alistair, and OneSnap banned Kennen and Lee Sin, despite Gragas and Lee Sin both getting nerfs in the latest patch.
Yeah, I thought both of them were kind of the lighter nerfs. I have to tell you, coming from PC League of Legends, and PC League of Legends, characters get nerfed so gradually. Someone will be like one-shotting entire teams, and they'll like turn down their move speed by 5%, and you're like, really? And then I'm looking at the Wild Rift patch notes, and they're like, let's turn that down by 60%, and that's wild to me.
It is early, though, so I can understand.
Did both get the lighter nerfs. One of the characters that got heavier nerfs, actually, was Misfortune, so I'm interested to see her picked up here today.
Compared to how ridiculously dominant she was, I don't think that her nerf was like that crazy. I'm actually looking at it right now. We can talk about it. So Double Up, which is her main damage dealer, they toned the base damage by 10 per level, or excuse me, 10 throughout the game, right? So it's actually not that bad. And then their attack speed on Strut is down 10% throughout the game as well. So it's like she's kind of just toned down throughout the game, but it's not like these massive damage buffs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do think it is still important. Let's talk about these compositions. As we get into it, you have an Orianna available here for Bigetron. They're going to be trying to use that in combination with the Olaf, but the Olaf is kind of the only ball carrier, unless that Vi builds a little bit more tanky, a little bit more survivable. I'm a little worried for the backlines as well. The Misfortune Janna don't have any tanks to protect them. So you're looking at the Xin Zhao on the opposite side of OneSnap Esports, I think, to be able to gain access to that Orianna Misfortune backline and do some serious damage.
Yeah, just looking at this Bigetron composition, it's like all damage all the time. And it feels like even the frontliners are more focused on dealing damage than staying alive. And their backliners are just, poking all day, every day. And then you have the Janna to help kind of just keep everything stitched together, right? And sometimes it can be just so frustrating because you're doing frustrating for the other team, because you're doing so much damage and Janna's kind of just shielding everyone, making everything annoying. But then it could just all fall apart and Janna's like, I can't shield all of you guys. Why are you so weak?
I mean, it's a CC game, right? And this is also a very, very snowbally team for Bigetron. If they get out ahead, if their characters get good, then they're just going to be able to one-shot team fights. And also, the CC, the stuns, will be on a short enough cooldown that they'll win these team fights by default. If they do not get out ahead, if they fall behind, I think we favor OneSnap in this match. And we'll swap over to their more traditional composition here as we take a look at their POV. You can see that they do have that Brawl, they do have that Xin Zhao. We have multiple perspectives. And I think that's going to be a much healthier front line. You also have the wild growth to amp up anyone there.
One thing to talk about for a moment here is that I feel like OneSnap has more of a traditional comp, right? Not traditional, but just kind of a more put together, stable composition. Whereas, like you mentioned, Bigetron is very snowbally. And the fact that they're snowballing means this game is going to, I feel like, snowball in one direction or the other. Because when we talk about snowball, we're talking about both directions here, right? They can go out of control with their damage, but if they don't start snowballing, then they really fall the other direction.
The snowball is on the top of the hill right now, and it can roll either way, baby. it can roll back over Bigetron like one of those cartoons.
Exactly. And Wile E. Coyote is like somewhere on the scene trying to make sure that goes perhaps in their way. But
we do have a bit of a mismatch right now. 3 members from Bigetron currently shoving into that Diana down bottom, whilst OneSnap gather their 3-man core up towards the top side. We'll actually make it a 4-man core as that Lulu's kind of drifting up here as well.
I actually wasn't really paying attention.
For turret lights.
Yeah, I wasn't really paying attention to where people were situated as we were talking about the compositions, but did they rotate recently there, or were they dueling from the bottom
of spawn?
Oh, okay.
Both these teams kind of handshaked into this. And OneSnap have kind of lost because the first heartbreak did go over to Bigetron, so they had a little bit more gold.
That said, for OneSnap, they do have the dragon side turret down, which will help really immensely when they go for that fight, because now there's nowhere to run if you are Bigetron when you're taking that fight. So you kind of the positions you can take are really lessened when you don't really have the turret to fall back to.
We haven't even talked about the most exciting change in this patch, Daniel. League of GA is no more.
I don't think that's going to be true. I fully expect to see the misfortune.
That's what they said in the patch notes, though, so I believed them.
It's really, I mean, it's a pretty big nerf, but it still is extremely strong item, in my opinion. Right?
Yeah, I mean, people will still build them. But, you know, League of Legends PC, they're a late game item. They're a final build item that you build when you're going for team fights in the late game. And I think this will shove it more towards that role.
Yeah, I would say so. I think we're just gonna see the amount of champions who pick it like cut in half, though. But I still think they're gonna be that half remaining.
Yeah.
So
we do have the first drink of the game just 20 seconds out, so we can offer your theory here as we're gonna stay just watching a little bit of poke here. This is the Bigetron perspective, the Bigetron top laner. I thought maybe there would be some action breaking out here, but there is not. OneSnap in the meantime.
Well, mid lane, if we're looking at it, is getting really pushed in. They even take the turret.
Press forward. They take the turret. There's the Glacial Fissure as well to start the fight. A very good fight for OneSnap Esports as they continue to shove forward. The Wild Growth will keep this Brawl alive for Chana, taking so much damage in the front of the fight. A flash forward will be able to get 1 kill, 2 kills for the Olaf. But that is all, and now here's the turn. Chami on the front lines, and they are completely demolishing Bigetron. Only Henry is alive.
Very sloppy fight there for Bigetron. Not only were they late in coming back to try to save the turret, but they came in after the turret was already dead. And so that meant that they were just taking an even fight. Normally you want to take a fight under your own turret, right? But then they came from a bad angle. And they took it after the turret was down. And we saw Olaf going in by himself after everyone's already dead. That was, oof. Yeah.
OneSnap immediately off of the full respawns, get their tanks back, and they say, we'll go right back in. And it's not gone well.
Yeah, this time OneSnap gets the worst of it, and maybe they should have been more together that fight. So both teams just kind of being a little bit sloppy here, even though, as we can see, that our OneSnap player is
complaining about his FPS. Yeah. That's not why you lost the fight. I watched.
We can see you on stream. Hey, you never know. Maybe he's pressing buttons and they just weren't going off. It could be the case.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time. First strike of the game does go over to Bigetron as OneSnap. Despite winning the initial fight, don't win it by a wide enough margin to really get anything out of it.
Yeah, this is the definition of a back and forth game, which is exactly the opposite of what we predicted at the beginning, right? It was like it's going to go one way or the other, and these teams are like, how about we don't prove that right?
I think... Oh, sorry, I'm going to get distracted here as Bigetron are still kind of grouping that mob. A 3-man gank squad. And they find a kill, sure enough, grabbing that Lulu off the rotate from mid, and that will turn into another turret.
You know, TJ, I have no way to make any sense of this game right now, because it just seems like, you know, Bigetron take a terrible fight, but then they come back and make some good moves roaming around the map, but then OneSnap is just kind of late to the rotations and letting Bigetron rotate onto turrets and kill them. It's a little bit sloppy here. I'm not going to lie here.
Yeah, I mean, Bigetron are playing to their team composition strengths, which is taking these skirmishy fights where their overwhelming damage will find them wins. I think the problem is that OneSnap are doing a poor job of forcing the fights that play to their composition's advantage, which will be full 5v5 fights where they set the pace around major objectives.
Right. Well, it's not just setting it around major objectives, but also making sure that they get to the backline in particular and make sure you take out those key targets.
Well, that's why the major objectives help, because it will mean that OneSnap are able to kind of engage in order. Like here, you can see Bigetron have to focus in on this Rift Herald. So theoretically, OneSnap could come in. Indeed, they do, round the side, but it's a huge shockwave. Bullet time to follow up. Wild Growth will keep this Olaf alive in the front lines, And so far, so good. OneSnap getting slaughtered. Bigetron for another big team fight. As this Olaf's gone huge, you can see the kiting there from Dua as they go massive. A triple kill on Misfortune to complete the team fight in favor again of Bigetron.
Yeah, the thing is, that was such a bizarre team fight. You saw the Olaf go in and really take a lot of the damage for his team, which, he kind of can do, but he's not the biggest tank in the world. And yet it was just enough for his team to pop off. And you saw the massive damage coming out from that Misfortune the entire time to really secure that win for them. That said, it was only really a 3-4-2 when it all was said and done.
It was a 3-for-2, but the 3 went on to the Misfortune, and the Drake went over to Bigetron. Or sorry,
the
Rift Herald.
Yeah.
So very important. So Dua got all the kills there, did a lot of the damage. The reason that Olaf... Okay, I'm going to hold this because we got another fight. I think it's just Chammy getting called out, though.
Yeah, very much. Like,
we don't need to discuss it. Anyway, the reason the Olaf doesn't die there is because that is the exact kind of fight that an Olaf excels at. You have like 16 people in melee range, you pop the Ragnarok, and you drink the blood of your enemies.
I'm always afraid to pop my Ragnarok when I'm near them because it actually makes you weaker. It makes you more likely to die, though it does make you pretty much or literally unstoppable.
If you have the lifesteal and you have your Ragnarok up, you are unkillable. If there are enough people around you to hit, which in that case there were.
For sure. There are also other basically threats on his side, so it's not like the entire team was focusing him down.
Oh, Shockwave will be spent. Blanche in trouble. Good Glacial Fissure will CC up the front line here for Bigetron. For Chana, able to hold back a lot of this Misfortune damage, but not protect Certs from this Olaf that just keeps going. Certs does have the damage to find the kill. Have the damage to turn on to Dua. A double kill for the Kai'Sa at the back of the fight, but it's not enough to save it for OneSnap, who lose yet another team fight.
Camille has to get back right now, or otherwise this could be really bad for them. You can see Camille on the minimap. Yeah, Camille needs to get back to defend her base. Poor old Braum trying to do it all by himself. But looks like they have enough
down now, but the inhibitor turret's already down. Blanche will push forward.
Oh! That was spicy. Yeah, Oriana's like, well, you can't jump on me. I know that. You don't have your damage dealers to do anything against me. So she's like, I'm just going to stick around and kill you if that's okay. And she does.
Because they opt for that inhibitor turret, Bigetron don't get the Drake immediately, but they can turn for this.
I just love getting the inhibitor turret, though. If you were to ask me which one is more important, I say inhibitor turret all day. It just completely warps the map. You always have those super minions pushing, and what's the obviously the Drake will help you in a team fight, but you know what helps in a team fight as well? Having more numbers than your opponent because someone's over in the other lane.
Yeah.
So,
and I would absolutely agree with you. It was the right order of operations because the inhibitor turret makes it easier to get the Drake. Oh my god, he's just in again! Ragnarok popped to deep dive, a huge shockwave in the meantime. Wild Growth will be spent on Fortuna, and the bullet time absolutely chews through him. A big kill, shutting down the Olaf immediately. Now the focus needs to shift to Certs, who's kiting back as best they can, and Control with the dive will confirm the kill. The shielding is huge. It is keeping this Olaf alive, and we doubted Bigetron's teamfight composition. I doubt it no longer. There's the Rift Herald. It's been sitting inside the pocket of this Olaf for a long time. They'll finally throw the Pokeball. This will be the Drake picked up, and I believe that mid-inhibitor turret folding as well.
Yeah, they might actually go for it. I'm trying to look on the small part of the screen there. They do get the inhibitor turret. Let's take a look at this replay again. Like you mentioned, huge damage coming with the Misfortune, but it's just the fact that they snowballed so hard is the main reason why, right? Because you see the Olaf, he jumps in. They can't kill him fast enough. Not only can they not kill him fast enough, but the multiple members of the other team that jumped onto the backline of the Bigetron, they couldn't kill their backline fast enough, so everyone's just alive. And that's problematic when everyone's just alive because they're raining damage on you on the other end.
So, just to recap what happened while we were in replay, that mid-turret did fall. We'll swap over to the OneSnap perspective. So, you can see their mid-turrets are gone, and Blanche, who we're spectating, is rather upset about that. The Drake was also picked up by the Olaf, which means they've now got, I believe, 3 Drakes in their pocket. 2 Drakes.
Oh no, 2 Drakes. Yeah. They, fortunately, Blanche looked at the menu for us. He's like, TJ, take a look.
2 Drakes, bud. Get better
What-
at counting, says Blanche.
Yeah, I mean, the game really hasn't focused on the Drakes too much. It's focused more on Bigetron roaming around and trying to get turrets, and it's certainly helped them quite a bit here. They've built not only lead in turrets, but in gold as well. And you can just see in these team fights, even though Bigetron should be a fragile team comp, the OneSnap cannot do enough damage to kill them in time before they just get run over.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to read this game. We talked a little bit about the potential of this team to snowball when we started, and Bigetron certainly have that, where this Olaf and Vi have gone from what should be kind of squishy bruisers to truly terrifying teamfight threats, just because they are out ahead.
Yeah, and they're just fulfilling every, meaning of the word bruiser, right? They're dealing damage and they're soaking a lot of damage in the meantime. And if they're soaking lots of damage as well, then that means their backline's doing a lot of damage.
Oh, Hextech Ultimatum will be deployed. Henry in trouble. That is exactly what Shammy needs to do. But in the meantime, Blanche is just diving the Janna, trying to secure the kill onto the Sport. That will be confirmed. Dua also in trouble here. But Blanche is losing all of their teammates. And there's a backdoor. The Olaf just diving the Nexus. A double kill pass to the Vi as the Olaf continues the backline dive. That's half HP of the Nexus. Only the Lulu alive. I don't think this is possible. Bigetron able to take game 1 of this best of 3 series.
Oh my goodness! After that kind of crazy game, it was only fitting that it ended in such a wacky way, right? you just have the Xinjiao taking the Jetta of all people, and then running away from a misfortune that he really had the upper hand on, because his Nexus was randomly dying, and then they had to run back, and then they lose the game. So, yeah, that's a game for you folks.
I think Bigetron have cracked the Wild Rift meta.
Which is what?
If you keep pushing forward, then you never have to play defense.
If you keep pushing forward, eventually you'll get to the Nexus, and then it'll die and you win the game.
I want to highlight, they had no interest in objectives that game. It was a very kind of Chinese League of Legends playstyle. The Drakes are good when you can have them, but you know what gets you more value on the map? Kills. Which sounds kind of troll, but if you're continually able to get teamfights, get wins, you're getting more XP, more gold, and you're actually doubly investing, because not only are you getting more XP and more gold, but you're denying that gold and XP to your opponents who are going to be dead for the next 30 seconds. So it's the easiest way to snowball a teamfight comp out ahead.
You know what I want to talk about really quickly, though, is the fact that our Orianna was the MVP in the end. We talked about the misfortune. Didn't die, 0 deaths, and built Leandri's Torment second, which it's like, well, I'm just going to be in the fight for a long time. It's like,
if you know that you are a teamfight comp that is only teamfighting, hell yeah, Leandri's Torment.
It's like, it was just hilarious. Like, I mean,
it's
never died.
It makes
Dave.
It makes Orianna that much stronger. You can build, especially when any team is a little bit tanky. You can do that like all you want.